I want to throw the question to you. What do you think are the implications of a world where we can use AI to
edit genes
right, to get better at editing genes, and I guess more directly to develop drugs for all sorts of undrugged categories?
Yeah. If we begin to over-rely on these models, and there's a technical issue within these models, do you not feel like health is very different, right? There's software engineering, we can tolerate some losses, but health, it's very
Mistakes
sensitive.
Can be fatal.
If there are issues with these models, don't you think that can affect what you are suggesting?
When you say issues, do you mean things regarding what inaccuracies?
Absolutely. So you know, a lot of these models, they hallucinate sometimes, right? So if we're not able to manage those hallucinations, putting these models so close to our health could be potentially
I totally agree. Who do you trust more, the AI or the private? Welcome to another episode of Exponentials, the podcast decoding our accelerated future. I'm William Intim here with Shareef Ali.
Today we are diving into health tech and biotech, where AI, gene editing, and cell engineering are rewriting the rules of wellness and medicine. We've got an exciting, game-changing story from Kenya, and we're looking forward to discussing that with you.
Yep, we're going to try and cover topics such as gene editing, AI in drug discovery, and AI in diagnosis, so I'm pretty excited.
From curing genetic disorders to enhancing clinical decision-making, the pace is quite staggering. So, William, let's get
right into it. Okay, so I want to start with some news items that came up. I want to talk about BEAM Therapeutics, which is a company that's pioneering a gene editing therapeutic to sickle cell. I wanted us to start with this because, as we both know, sickle cell is something that's very prevalent among Africa. And the early results from this clinical trial use a technique called base editing to correct the specific genetic mutation causing the sickle cell disease with minimal side effects and off-target editing. This could have a massive impact for sickle cell globally. And I wanted to bring this up and open up the whole, paradigm of gene editing and how that could address a lot of the genetic diseases that are among society. There are also some companies that are combining gene editing with AI to help them develop better editors and identify better targets for gene editing. So, Shareef, there are several genetic diseases that plague our society.
Yeah.
We are not necessarily experts in healthcare, but everyone knows of some genetic disease that is bothering some, the most prevalent being sickle cell.
Yeah.
What do you think are the actual implications for us getting to a point where we can cure certain genetic diseases with certain therapeutics?
Yeah, so I think, with time, we've realized that the more we understand about a certain topic, the better we get at, finding solutions if problems exist. Now, bringing that back to health, AI is just another or just an enhancement to the intelligence that we are using to learn and discover new things, essentially. So I think just having this additional intelligence with us is going to help us learn a bit more, discover a bit more, and then find solutions to problems that we've had for a very long time.
Yeah, because with this specific example, if we have the technology to do a genetic edit, we could have AI sort of run across the whole human genome and recommend edits to make. So the implications are actually quite profound. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to this technology rolling out at scale to those who need it. Another thing I want us to discuss is AI in drug discovery. There are a lot of companies that are using AI to sort of come up with novel compounds. Google, for instance, dropped AlphaFold. I don't know if you heard about that. Where it's a model that helps them sort of develop proteins.
Okay.
So every possible protein that can exist, they're able to synthesize it sort of digitally.
Okay.
And from there, you could assume you could predict how it could behave in the body. That's the holy grail. I guess the holy grail of that kind of technology is to sort of develop a virtual cell where you can simulate drugs online. How the human body reacts to this. And I want to throw the question to you. What do you think are the implications of a world where we can use AI to
edit genes, right,
to get better at editing genes? And I guess more directly to develop drugs for all sorts of undrugged categories.
Yeah, I think, again, right, it's about discovery, right? And if we're able to discover more things about ourselves, it'll be easier for us to find solutions to some of these things. With regards to editing genes and stuff like that, again, I'm not a healthcare expert, but I think it opens up the possibility to curing so many diseases, right? There are a lot of autoimmune diseases that quite a lot of people suffer from, diabetes, so on and so forth. And us being able to understand some of these things better, understand the source of some of these issues,
of these diseases,
means that we can then collectively find ways to mitigate or manage them better.
There are some interesting companies that are in the AI drug discovery space. You have a company called Telemedicine, EXAI Bio, and Recursion Pharmaceuticals that are building, I wouldn't call them LLMs, but models based on drug discovery.
Right.
And I think it's very interesting because we speak about AI a lot, but in terms of general domain of words. But then there's this whole domain of specialized AI models where the whole reason of existence of this model is for drugs.
One thing,
as opposed to a sort of general model. So I'm pretty excited because, I mean, in theory, there could be a day where AI will cure all diseases. I mean, it sounds very pie in the sky right now, but I don't see any inherent roadblocks. Of course, the technology isn't there yet, and we need more compute, more data. We need more testing, and of course, one thing that slows down proving the reliability of these type of systems is getting a drug approved takes forever.
Right.
It takes forever. Maybe there are places that AI could help speed up that approval process with the local FDA. They could helping them speed up reviewing of drug proposals, et cetera, speeding up clinical trials, being able to match drug developers with potential, what's the word I'm looking for? People who have the ailments that they are trying to target. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Generally, it is about efficiency, right? And getting so drugs, doing the research, understanding what the issues are, and developing the drugs, getting it out to market. There's a whole process that is involved.
Yep. And every step of that chain
can be
from discovery to distribution can be affected by AI.
So I think there's going to be a net increase in efficiency from discovery to supply on the markets.
So in healthcare as a whole, there's various segments. There's the drug discovery, there's the drug manufacturing, there's the distribution, there's the patient diagnosis. And I think we were both very engaged by the story that came out of Kenya regarding this partnership between OpenAI and Penda Health, who was a real-world study on AI as an additional consultant.
Yeah.
I think we both know the story, but for those who don't know, OpenAI and Penda Health published a study on AI Consult, which is an LLM clinical copilot deployed across 15 clinics in Nairobi, Kenya. The study involving over 39,000 patients showed a 16% reduction in diagnostic errors, which I think is, that's a lot. And a 13% reduction in treatment errors where clinicians use this AI consult, which is sort of like a co-pilot between the primary care physician and the patient. And I think it marks a significant step in AI actually driving health outcomes. So I want to know what you first thought of when you heard of that story in the study.
Yeah. So I think, in the previous episodes, or one of the previous episodes, I mentioned the fact that I use AI as my own personal doctor.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get the results, I upload it into AI, and then I speak to the model about my own body just to understand a bit better. That is on a personal level with AI. But what OpenAI is doing with Penda Health is taking that into a more organizational level, right? And having these models impact a much larger group of people. I thought the study was particularly interesting because there was a comment that was made by one of the nurses, and she was saying that she's not afraid of this taking her job.
Yeah.
Right, but she has more confidence
in her results,
in her abilities,
to deliver
due to the fact that
outcomes,
there's this co-pilot supporting her. You know, so I think overall there's a net positive.
I found it that comment she made very interesting, because there's all this doomerism about how AI is coming to take jobs, but quite the contrary. In this case, it will probably justify the need for more nurses and more AI to work with them, because for her, they say that she doesn't feel threatened by AI taking a job, but rather feels more confident in the outcomes for patients. I think that's a brilliant sign. And I'm looking forward to technology such as this rolling out broadly across the African continent. Imagine if every country mandated that this AI consult co-pilots is mandatory for every doctor or physician, that you have to work with the co-pilot. You can't take decisions in isolation. Personally, I wouldn't trust a doctor that is not involving AI in your diagnosis process, because I mean the AI will 16% reduction.
Right.
You can't say that you are perfect.
Question for you: don't you think that because if we begin to over rely on these models, and there's a technical issue within these models, do you not feel like health is very different, right? There's software engineering, we can tolerate some losses, but health, it's very sensitive.
Mistakes can be fatal.
If there are issues with these models, don't you think that can affect what you are suggesting?
When you say issues, do you mean things regarding what? Inaccuracies?
Absolutely. So, a lot of these models, they hallucinate sometimes, right? So if we're not able to manage those hallucinations, putting these models so close to our health could be potentially dangerous.
I totally agree, which is why I'm happy that this system that they developed is a co-pilot. It's not a fully autonomous AI doctor where you just talk to a webcam and then they diagnose you. So, and what I like about systems such as this is it gives the primary care physician the ability to override the decision of the AI.
But that's on the assumption that the primary caregiver knows what to do.
Who do you trust more, the AI or the primary care?
That's a combination.
That's exactly. Which is why solutions such as this co-pilot, system work. Because I mean, we both know that there's a serious deficit of healthcare professionals in Africa. If AI could help a primary care physician that used to see 10 or 20 patients a day, now they can see 40 or 50, because they are just churning through the cases and diagnoses much faster. I think that's like a big thing. And earlier on we spoke about, one of our previous episodes, we spoke about how we need African governments to pay attention to I feel like every healthcare minister in Africa should know of this study and think of ways in which they can incorporate it into their country's healthcare system. And strike the necessary, or even maybe develop a homegrown company that builds the solution. And I think if we do this, and this level of medical intelligence is democratized across the entire continent, you have far fewer deaths. Just generally better outcomes for our society. So I was very excited when I heard heard of this study, and I'm hoping it's replicated across the entire continent.
I think for me, just the fact that we need to, AI and healthcare needs to have slightly different regulation, right? Because again, it is very sensitive. Health and AI is very sensitive. We cannot apply the same safety controls to generic models that we are applying to healthcare specific models. And I think once we are able to nail that difference and management of those issues, then we can rely a bit more on what these models are telling us.
So, I mean, down the similar vine, there's another telemedicine platform called Mobi Health that expanding AI diagnostics in Africa. So, whereas the earlier study was more like in clinic, this seems more like a more broadly rolled out, unless I'm not understanding it correctly. But like I said, just like this earlier system, it analyzes symptoms and delivers treatments and recommendations, boosting healthcare access in underserved areas, which is the key point.
Right.
And let's be honest, there's a lot of underserved areas in Africa. So I'm very excited, and I really hope there's more investment, because this is a problem that Africa has. Our healthcare outcomes here are very poor, and we are not producing enough doctors. So if you can have AI fill in some of the gaps, I'm very excited for what that future looks like. So in terms of the exponential angle of these topics, I really want us to talk a bit more about the AI-powered discovery and clinical support. I mentioned companies that are developing AI drugs such as Recursion Pharma, but the fact that AI can crunch all the biological data at the speed that no human can, and it turns drug discovery almost into an engineering problem.
Yeah.
It's becoming more of an engineering issue. And also the fact that AI in clinics is helping reduce errors is something that I think is a big leap forward.
Yeah.
Another thing on the topic of gene editing and diseases such as sickle cell, which are very, very prevalent in Africa, I'm looking forward to a future where the cost of these treatments are brought down significantly, because this treatment from BEAM Therapeutics that I mentioned, that sort of it corrects sickle cell essentially and allows people with it to live normal lives.
Yeah.
It costs $2 million for a treatment.
Wow.
Because obviously you're paying for all the R&D.
Right.
Medical pricing is a whole other, medicine prices.
Can you expand on that? $2 million per treatment.
Per treatment.
And what is the treatment like?
So obviously the treatment, I don't want to speak out of turn, but obviously you need to partner with a specialist facility that can even administer that treatment.
I see.
And it depends whether it's I'm not sure if this treatment was in vivo or ex vivo. Ex vivo, they take cells out of your body, correct the cells, and then put it back in. And in vivo, they do everything within you. So it's not you go and you take a pill, and then your genes are edited. That's why. But I think more so than that, there's a lot of venture capital investment that goes into developing these drugs and these gene edits. So when they make their money, they have to find a way to recoup the investment. That's why some of these drug prices, you hear one treatment costs $2 million or $1 million. But it's because there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
I still have mixed feelings on the pricing. But the point I'm trying to make is Africa has a wide percentage of people with sickle cell disease.
Yeah.
We don't have a wide percentage of people with $2 million for treatment. How do we square that circle?
Right.
And the idea is that as time goes on, these treatments will become
more affordable.
But hey, I don't know, it's not guaranteed. So I really hope our leaders are also investing in some of these, so that if, for instance, if it's a disease that we know is prevalent to us, we should be pioneering the cures.
Ideally, yes.
But clearly that's not what's happening.
Ideally.
And I wanted to move on to the implications of things like what we said, the study from Penda Health. What do you think is the roadblock between that becoming a broadly rolled out solution across all clinics in Africa? What do you think are the roadblocks? Because now we've proven that you can have a meaningful percentage reduction in wrongful diagnosis. So why is this not all over?
I mean, it's a lot of different things, right? And again, emphasis on my points earlier, safety, right? I think safety is a key thing, or a key factor that drives a lot of the healthcare innovation. That is why even before AI, there's a new experimental drug. They take years, they play around with it, they test it, they make sure that there are no significant issues that will arise as a result of distributing this drug, right? Let's take the COVID vaccine as an example. Till date, there are still skeptics about that vaccine. And it is because this vaccine hasn't been around for a long enough time for us to thoroughly understand what the impact is on ourselves, right? But back to the AI, I think safety aside, regulation, we also have, a very inefficient regulation.
There's a lot of bureaucracy.
Yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy, especially in this side of the world. We have all these boards set up and so on and so forth. But when it comes to innovation, we take a very long time to adapt So that coupled with safety issues, I think is going to take us a bit of time. However, this study in Kenya, this experiment with OpenAI in the hospital, I think is getting a lot of industry experts to see the potential in the synergy between AI and healthcare.
Exactly.
And I think slowly but surely, we will start to see more of these examples backed with data.
Yeah.
You know, this article clearly can show that 16% reduction in misdiagnosis, right? It's backed by evidence. And I think the more these experiments and studies are run, the more clarity everybody will have, and then we'll start to see them being deployed a lot faster.
Okay, so that's pretty much around our African Global Connection segment. But the next thing in that segment is, you know, there are a lot of tropical diseases that are unique to Africa. And I'm thinking about the potential of using some of these AI drug discovery platforms to develop like a better treatment to malaria, dengue fever, all sorts of diseases, and what that could do for the livelihood of Africans. And I'm thinking it just leads me to believe that there needs to be more investment by the African health organizations.
100%.
Because, I mean, if an AI is developed that can cure all diseases. Let's say some of the companies we've mentioned. Another company in this space is Isomorphic Labs. It's a subsidiary of Google, actually. But let's say Isomorphic Labs or Recursion Pharma develops a perfect AI drug discovery engine. They are not going to work on African diseases first.
Very true. Very.
Diseases here might be an afterthought.
Right.
And it just lets you know that we need to sort of pioneer some of these firms or invest in some of these companies to give them incentive to tune their AI towards some of our diseases, because there are several diseases that we still, you know, lose millions and millions of lives to in Africa. That soon, we're still not there yet, but soon these AI drug discovery platforms could solve them en masse. Hopefully, the cost of these type of systems also come down so that it's easier to address multiple issues. And I guess now we also need to, the whole regulatory environment probably needs to be updated to reflect the fact that we are in an AI world now.
Right.
Like you are saying, this study with Penda Health, the results are there. But how much bureaucracy is it going to take before the government's mandate that now we are deploying a state-backed or even private-backed medical co-pilot for all, you know, clinics in all regions of Ghana or all regions of Africa or wherever? Like, we need to move faster than it is now, because the solution is there. So now our problem goes from the solution to the bureaucracy that will allow us to deploy and roll out this solution at scale.
Right, and I realized that a lot of Africans, based on our demographic, have relatively lower white blood cell counts, right? As you are mentioning, a lot of the research in this field is skewed towards, you know, the Americas, Asias, and the data there is different. Right, so until we take ownership of these initiatives and invest our money, invest our time, and tailor some of these things locally, it will be very, very difficult for us to have that mass adoption here. I think,
go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's up to us to lead these conversations, right? It's up to us to encourage some of these healthcare providers, some of these investment companies to come together and pioneer Africa-based, Africa-first research into healthcare and
exactly. Because I was going to ask, like, who is gathering data on health outcomes in maybe the World Health Organization is, but we need more serious forms of data aggregation to inform some of these decisions, and then know how we can benefit from AI accordingly.
Right.
So another thing that also is important is, if, let's say, AI-assisted consultation becomes a norm, we are going to have to reskill a lot of the doctors on how to use these systems. And I want your thoughts on that, and what a reskilling operation such as that could look like.
So education in general, I think, needs to be rethought because of what AI can do. And education, we have to incorporate learning how to use these tools as part of our education, right? Because without these tools, you will be left behind. It's a no-brainer. And these tools are able to distill information in the perfect manner that makes it easier for you to ingest, rather than going back and forth with the lecturer who has his own, biases and misunderstanding and stuff with you. You can just put it all into the tool. It will pull everything out for you and give it to you in a way that you can understand. Now, with health, I think, again, we have to think about how best we can incorporate the utility of these tools into our education. And I'm very sure that in the next couple of years, these tools themselves will change.
Yeah.
OpenAI and Johnny Ive are working on this secret product.
Yeah.
Who knows what it's going to be like? Is it a voice-based product? We don't know, right? But these tools is what is going to power the next generation.
But I have a question. So do you think it's time where using AI should be, like we should be teaching how to use AI in computer classes in high school?
I believe
now?
so.
Because I wonder what the let's say the IT curriculum now looks like for the average high school student, and are they covering how to use AI in your? I feel like these things need to be a big part of the curriculum, because the old way of doing things is simply outdated.
It's changed.
So if we are not introducing these things into the curriculum for kids early, we are doing them a big disservice.
Yeah. Back in the day when we were in school, we were taught how to type.
Yeah.
Because the computer was the means that
now
we
we
are
should be
able
taught
to...
how to prompt.
Exactly.
Now we need to teach people how to prompt.
And it's funny because there's this whole conversation around prompt engineering, right? Which is basically giving the LLM or the AI relevant context for you to engage with them. But there's this side conversation which is more about context engineering, right? A prompt is very simple, but context is being able to piece together different prompts such that you are giving the AI the information you are giving the AI the information that it needs, and you are also asking it to give you information in a form that is easy for you to ingest. So I think context engineering as a whole is something that we need to be mindful of, and it's something that we need to really teach people how to do.
I think we owe the audience a whole episode on AI and education.
Absolutely.
I think that can be something that we will expect that from us. So I want to talk about some cultural commentary. This is sort of like a dual episode on the topic of gene editing and also AI in healthcare. So regarding gene editing, there's a whole ethical aspect of that conversation. Fixing sickle cell is one thing, but where's the line? In Africa, for instance, cultural views on family and health could clash with the idea of genetic enhancement. And I don't know. I want to know what you think about that.
In Africa, we have our traditional medicine practices, right? We often, there's a huge segment that will much rather go into their village and deal with a local healer versus going into a hospital, right? So I think for as long as we are Africans, we will definitely have some of that preference towards local stuff, right? But regardless, I think once we are able to demonstrate the value of this new technology, right?
And even informing the public, because I could see some misinformed, people going up and saying, "No, I don't want to talk to the AI. I don't want you to use it." That level of ignorance of not even knowing what it is, could result in whether it's gene editing breakthroughs or even AI and healthcare breakthroughs. There could be a lot of pushback,
and there definitely will be. I mean, I think it's not going to be easy for mass adoption because there's this spiritual and cultural
there's a whole lot of biases, and
so it's not going to be easy.
And
but anyway,
we touched on this earlier, but there are also some equity gaps. These treatments are like cutting edge and they are very pricey. Like, are they for the global elite only? And I think we touched on it earlier, so we don't need to rehash that conversation. But what can Africa do to bring the cost of these technologies and prices down where it can actually be deployed at scale? AI diagnosing your illness is fast, but in community tied to traditional healers, trust is a hurdle. So obviously, I think the reason this Panda Health one worked is because they really involved all stakeholders in the
chain.
So maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
You shouldn't let it seem like some alien technology that has come to land, but maybe more stakeholder engagement, more, I don't know, what do you think? The type of things that will let people gain confidence in these, put gene editing aside, but even just AI in the healthcare.
It's novel technology, right? We're at the beginning of this era. So there's definitely going to be a lot of kickback. We don't like change. As much as we all claim to like change, we really don't like change. Yeah. And I think that it is time that will allow for mass adoption, because with time, there's going to be a lot more proof and validation of this idea. So I think time is one huge factor. And also, as you mentioned, just the stakeholders getting together from the very beginning. Yeah. Let's hear your thoughts. Let's hear his thoughts. Let's hear everyone's thoughts.
This is what this does.
Exactly. And then together, we come up with a plan,
more buy-in,
and we execute. Yeah.
So in an earlier episode, we spoke about data privacy and how we need some of these systems to be in the country. This study in Nairobi is between a company headquartered in San Francisco and a clinic in Nairobi, but I bet you the data is somehow ending up back in San Francisco. Yeah. So the question I want to ask is, I mean, it buttresses the earlier point. We need the infrastructure to be localized, because is it the best idea that a lot of our healthcare, because there's no pioneering AI platform that can handle these use cases, we have to route all, assuming AI in healthcare diagnosis becomes standard procedure across all clinics in Africa.
Right.
Does that mean all African health data is going to OpenAI servers in
Most likely. And the reason is, I think we have our own priorities as a continent, right? Given all the issues we have in Ghana, does it make sense for the government to invest in a data center? No. You see?
If it's going to lead to better health outcomes, I think it's a worthwhile investment.
Again, I also think it's a worthwhile investment, but from our leaders' perspectives, we don't even have roads in certain villages. People cannot even move from their homes to the hospitals, right? And because of that, we have a completely different set of priorities, which is why, for the meantime anyway, we don't mind giving that privacy or giving that sovereignty to some of these providers.
So I'll push back a bit in the sense that there are some technologies that we had other problems to solve, but it took precedence. Like there's 5G in Ghana,
right?
But some people don't have.
Is it implemented yet, 5G?
Well, even if you take 4G, LTE, whatever, the maximum speed, it's still enough to like stream or whatever or do whatever you need. And I'm like, you could have made a similar argument that why are we setting up fiber optic cables and laying all this broadband infrastructure when we haven't done all the roads? Right. So I feel like we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Yeah. And it's just a matter of seeing the incentive. Obviously, it goes without saying that by laying all the broadband infrastructure, now businesses are much more efficient and productive because they have access to high-speed internet. Similar arguments could probably be made that by laying all this AI infrastructure, we will have more sovereignty over our data, our clinical data, and all sorts of other information.
Okay. And so I push back to you. Sovereignty versus efficiency. Which one is more important?
For the stage of development, we are at 100% efficiency.
Right.
But we should be thinking towards a future where we are not living hand to mouth, and then these type of problems become exactly. But till then, hey, if the information has to go through OpenAI and we get the better health outcomes, I'm not against that.
Right.
But there should come a time where, like how some countries mandate their healthcare information, it doesn't need to be for all information. But I think healthcare information is particularly sensitive, where we should sort of have that strong desire to have it on-prem in the country, at least in some form.
Agreed.
Okay, now let's move to one of my favorite segments, the investing lens. Once again, this is by no means financial advice. We're just talking about some of the companies doing interesting stuff in the fields that that we are talking about. Biotech and health tech are high risk, high reward plays. I just want to start with that. Biotech is historically one of the riskiest places to
Invest.
to invest.
Yeah.
Like they go bust all the time. So actually, I encourage a lot of companies, a lot of you to do the research. On the AI drug discovery landscape, there's companies like Recursion and Exscientia recently merged with Recursion, but there's also EXAI. And I mentioned this because assuming AI in drug discovery becomes the default way of developing drugs going forward, a lot of value is going to accrue because it's cutting down the time it takes to develop a drug from maybe 10 years to few months possibly. Maybe it might take a week to develop a drug. And think about the value that could accrue to these companies. I'm sure some of the ones that are in the space are going to go bust. This is a high risk, high reward space in particular. But even if you don't want to get too risky, a lot of those companies using AI to develop drugs are probably doing it on NVIDIA chips or AMD chips.
Semiconductors.
Funny enough, the company I mentioned earlier, Recursion,
Right.
NVIDIA is an investor in them. And one of the companies I mentioned, EXAI Bio, AMD is an investor in them.
I see.
So they clearly see where the trends are going. So just, some information out there.
Yeah. Back to the value chain in AI, I think it's very broad. We've spoken about energy. We've spoken about the products. We've spoken about the cloud. Now we're speaking about healthcare. AI is going to be everywhere.
Everywhere. It's the new electricity.
It is. And so it's only prudence for us to see how best we can get involved. And investments, I mean, we all have slightly different risk appetites. Some are more passive, some are more active. But we definitely recommend that do a bit of research and understand how best you can benefit, because it's free money, basically. I don't want to say this, and
I actually want to throw it to the audience, but finish your point.
This is not financial advice, as we keep saying, but it's basically free money, because if you're able to invest strategically
in some of these
companies, as they grow, we are all going to benefit from them. So.
I actually want to throw it to the audience. Drop in the comments below some comments, publicly traded or private companies that you think would be great investments to ride this biotech or AI in healthcare boom. And let us know. Maybe you know some stuff that we don't.
Sure. And I mean, in addition to what William is saying, let's also hear from you with your experience in health and AI, right? Are you also people that are sharing your lab results with the models to get feedback or not?
Is there some cool way you found out to use AI to improve your health outcomes?
Generally, it could be dieting, it could be, meal plans, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Let's hear from
And also on the topic of genetic diseases, let us know some of the main genetic disorders that plague Africans that you think some of these gene editing companies should be tackling. And also any other thoughts. So, as we move on, Shareef, I have some questions for you.
Let's go.
Sticking with gene editing, what are some of the most exciting or scary gene potentials of gene editing in your eyes, especially relating to Africa?
Right.
Like think about you. If you can edit gene in the limits, this is like you can tweak any part of of the human hair color, eye color. It could lead to all sorts of nasty outcomes or good outcomes.
With biotech in general, even before the human part of it, the genes, right? We have what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink.
Yeah. Right? Actually, that we should talk more about that.
And I think with Neuralink,
I'm a huge fan of the company.
A huge fan of the company. Because what he's able to do with that, that's hardware. That's not even a biological thing, right? That's connecting some hardware to us and allowing it to augment us.
Okay.
There are so many people that have these issues, health issues, broken spines, cerebral palsy and stuff.
Before you go ahead, for the audience, Neuralink is a company that's developing a brain-computer interface. It's basically a device that, physical device that, they cut open a bit of your cranium and your skull. They put it in there, and it's basically an input-output interface between your brain and the device. Just some context for the audience.
Right. So, I mean, you can think, and it does.
Pick up your thoughts. Yeah.
So, a lot of people that are using this are people who are disabled. Right, who currently have lost motor function, and they are now currently using their mind to interact with the external world. So there's the biotech aspect, which is we already have technology that is allowing us to do more, right? Now, when it comes to our genes, I think the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, it could be bad too, though.
Absolutely.
People could, you could have certain traits completely be eradicated because suddenly preferences that we don't want this. We don't want this. Funny enough, actually, this is actually very relevant to this conversation. There's a company that I heard about recently. I don't want to make a mistake with the name, but they are using AI to analyze embryos.
Okay.
And to sort of identify markers for potential diseases.
I see.
So let's say couples that are trying to have kids via IVF, they have a bunch of embryos, they take it to this company, and they are able to sort of run diagnostics on the embryos. You know that out of these 5 or 6 embryos, this one is likely to have a higher IQ, or this one is optimized for height.
Very interesting.
This one has a percent likelihood of Down syndrome.
Okay.
And the whole IVF conversation is it's a hotly debated topic.
Yeah.
But for those who, in future, we could have the question of, is it irresponsible to have a kid without something like this? Let's say, because if you have the power to, do some diagnosis on your embryos with AI and determine that, no, this kid has a likelihood of some disease or some genetic disorder, going back to gene editing, you could sort of even use AI to diagnose that this embryo has a potential issue. Then use gene editing to fix it.
Yeah.
And you could have a situation where suddenly maybe there's no more people who have a certain kind of trait.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring that up. Actually, I wish we spoke a lot more about that, because I thought that was very fascinating that now you could, it could potentially make natural births, well, natural pregnancies, which is like, pregnancies from regular intercourse, very debatable because it's a risk.
It is. I think the whole biotech, health tech combination with AI,
it's insane.
There's so many possibilities.
It's insane. We didn't even scratch the surface or even truly do it justice. But every time I hear of something new, my mind is blown.
Yeah, I think once we get a healthcare professional on this show very soon, we'll have
a follow-up episode,
in-depth conversation
with some, and hopefully by that time, some of these technologies are more broadly
matured.
rolled out.
Yeah.
If you could have like someone on who's actually using AI in their health practice,
right,
it could be pretty beneficial.
Yeah.
So, long story short, the wellness revolution is accelerating. Beyond AI, we have revolutionary technologies such as gene editing and AI in drug discovery that are changing the game. We're excited for where it goes. We hope to hear more studies like this Panda Health study that tells us the potential of what these technologies can do.
Yeah, but the big questions are access, ethics, and trust, especially for Africa.
Okay, thank you for listening. This was an episode on the wellness revolution and the ways in which technologies such as gene editing and AI are impacting healthcare outcomes. We hope to have more in-depth conversations, hopefully with an actual trained medical professional in future, to fill in the gaps of our knowledge and let us know about the ways this could truly be beneficial and impactful to African societies at large and society at large.
But the big questions are access, ethics, and trust, especially for Africa. Thank you guys for joining. Let's hear your thoughts. Leave some comments. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Take care.